My grandma, God bless her, is 83 years old, bakes pies from scratch, and still refers to Wi-Fi as the interweb. But one thing you never forget about Grandma Jean is that she survived harder times than most of us could imagine, and she's not afraid to fight fire with fire, or, in this case, a .45 Colt that hadn't seen daylight since 1945. This is the story of how a group of fake HOA enforcers learned the hard way that you don't mess with Texas grandmas, especially ones who served in the Army Signal Corps and still sleep with a loaded pistol in the drawer. My grandma lives on the edge of a neighborhood called Red Cedar Estates, just outside Waco. Her property, about 4 acres with a small barn and a peach orchard, technically sits outside HOA jurisdiction. Always has, but that never stopped the Red Cedar HOA from trying to claim otherwise. They've sent her threatening letters about excessive foliage, tried to bill her for community water fees, and even once demanded she remove her windmill because it wasn't modern enough. She ignored them all. Grandma Jean was never one to be bullied. "Tell him to pound sand," she'd say, sipping sweet tea on the porch with her straw hat and her ancient border collie, Buster. But last month, things escalated far beyond letters. It started on a Wednesday morning. I was in town working and planned to swing by Grandma's around noon. At about 10:30 a.m., 2 men pulled into her driveway in a black SUV with magnetic stickers that read, Red Cedar Compliance Division. They wore tactical-looking gear, nothing official, but enough to make someone blink. They marched right up to the porch where Grandma was gardening and told her they were authorized to inspect and reclaim HOA resources illegally used by non-compliant properties. In plain English, they tried to force their way into her barn. Grandma told them to leave. One of them shoved her cane aside and said, "We can make this easy or we can make this official." That was his second mistake. The first was stepping foot on her land. The third? Not noticing the antique military trunk by the front door. Inside that trunk, under a folded American flag and Grandma's late husband's service medals, sat a .45 Colt M 1911, issued in 1945, cleaned, oiled, and yes, still loaded. My grandma, with more calm than I think I'll ever have, opened that trunk, pulled the Colt out and said, "Boys, I saw Berlin fall. You think I'm scared of you?" One of the imposters reached for something under his vest, but Grandma fired a single round into the gravel next to his boot. They froze. She leveled the pistol. "I'd recommend you back up real slow, hands high, and think real hard about life choices." They did exactly that, retreating to their SUV and speeding off so fast they kicked up a cloud of dust that covered her irises. I arrived 20 minutes later to find her on the porch, sipping sweet tea with the Colt in her lap like it was just another Wednesday. Sheriff's deputies arrived soon after. She gave a calm statement, showed them everything, the gun, the footage from her Ring doorbell, even the spent shell casing. Turns out those guys weren't from any HOA. They were con artists who had been running a fake compliance racket in upscale neighborhoods, bullying the elderly out of access or valuables. But they picked the wrong grandmother. The sheriff smiled and said, "Ma'am, you ever think about rejoining the force?" She winked. "Only if you let me wear boots instead of heels." The imposters were caught 2 days later trying the same stunt in nearby Crawford. Now they're facing charges of impersonating officers, trespassing, attempted robbery, and unlawful threats. The HOA? Let's just say they stopped sending letters. And Grandma? She cleaned the Colt, oiled it again, and placed it back in the trunk where it belongs. Ready, just in case the next fool forgets that in Texas you respect your elders, or you risk learning a very loud lesson.